Some people don't hate people, they hate crowds. They'll leave parties early, they'll avoid packed events, they'll choose a quiet street, even if it's longer. Avoiding crowds is not weakness, it's not rudeness, and in many cases, it's not anxiety at all. And the strange part? They're often the most thoughtful people in the room. So why do crowds drain them? Stay until the end, because the final insight explains something most people never realize. Why crowd avoidance is misunderstood. We live in a world that rewards noise. Busy environments are associated with popularity, confidence, success, being normal. Quiet preferences are often labeled as antisocial, awkward, cold, too sensitive. But psychology tells a very different story. Crowd avoidance usually isn't about people at all. It's about how the nervous system processes stimulation and how much input a mind can handle before it shuts down. And once you understand that, everything changes. Quick note before we go deeper. Avoiding crowds doesn't automatically mean anything is wrong with someone. Human behavior exists on a spectrum, and people avoid crowds for neurological, emotional, psychological, cultural, and personal reasons, many of which are healthy. This video isn't about diagnosing or labeling, it's about understanding. Now let's break it down. In this video, we're uncovering the hidden psychology behind people who avoid crowds. You'll understand what's happening in their brain and nervous system, why crowds feel draining instead of exciting, why many crowd avoiders are deeply perceptive and intelligent, and why this trait is often misunderstood as a flaw. Let's start at the foundation. Sensory processing overload. Crowds are not just social spaces. They are high-intensity sensory environments that bombard the brain with overlapping conversations, constant movement, bright lights, physical proximity, unpredictable interruptions. For some people, this is stimulating. For others, it's overwhelming. What's happening in the brain? People who avoid crowds often have heightened sensory processing. Their brains absorb more information, process it more deeply, struggle to filter background noise. This means their nervous system hits overload much faster. When that happens, stress hormones increase, focus drops, the body shifts into low-level survival mode. This isn't fear, it's biology. To understand what that actually feels like, imagine this. You walk into a packed supermarket after a long day. Music is playing, a baby is crying, someone's cart bumps your heel. You're trying to remember what you came for, but your thoughts feel scattered. Nothing terrible is happening, but your body wants out. Another person might feel energized, but you're mentally exhausted within minutes. Avoiding crowds isn't avoidance of life, it's self-regulation. But sensory overload is just the first layer. Highly observant minds. People who avoid crowds are often naturally observant. Their brains constantly register facial expressions, tone changes, body language, emotional shifts. This awareness is powerful, but costly. In crowds, information multiplies faster than the mind can organize it. They don't miss details. They're flooded by them. Here's what that looks like in real life. In a crowded room, they notice who's forcing a smile, who's being talked over, who suddenly went quiet after a joke. Most people are focused on the conversation. They're reading the room. And that leads directly to energy. Energy drain versus energy gain. Crowds don't affect everyone the same way. Some people feel energized, motivated, alive. Others feel drained, foggy, emotionally exhausted. This isn't about confidence or shyness. It's about where energy is gained and lost. People who avoid crowds often recharge in solitude or small groups, lose energy in high-density social environments. Avoiding crowds becomes a form of energy conservation. You see this difference clearly after big events. Relatable example. After a wedding, one person wants to keep the night going. Another smiles, hugs everyone goodbye, and feels relief the moment they're alone in the car. They didn't hate the event. Their energy just ran out. But energy isn't the only factor. Need for predictability and clarity. Crowds remove control. You can't predict noise levels, movement, interactions. For certain nervous systems, unpredictability equals stress. Quiet environments feel safer because they're mentally readable. This isn't control, it's regulation. And this shows up in subtle moments. Relatable example. Someone stands too close. Someone suddenly asks you a question. You're stuck in the middle of the room with no clean exit. Your brain isn't panicking, it's calculating. Now let's address the biggest myth. Not social anxiety most of the time. Social anxiety is fear of judgment. Crowd avoidance is usually discomfort with overstimulation and chaos. Many people who avoid crowds speak confidently, enjoy deep conversations, perform well socially. They just don't enjoy noise without meaning. That's why this surprises people. Relatable example. They can give presentations, they can lead meetings, but put them in a loud group setting and they shut down. Not from fear, from overload. Emotional absorption. Emotionally attuned people absorb emotional signals automatically. In crowds, emotions blend together. Stress, excitement, tension. Without boundaries, this becomes overwhelming. Avoidance becomes emotional hygiene or self-protection. You've probably felt this before. Relatable example. You walk into a room and instantly feel tension. No one says anything, but your chest tightens. That's emotional absorption. Rich internal worlds. People who avoid crowds often live much more internally than externally. Their minds are constantly active with reflection, imagination, meaning-making, pattern recognition. While some people process life out loud, they process it inside. Crowds interfere with this in two ways. They fragment attention with constant input. They pull focus away from the inner world where these people naturally function. For them, silence isn't empty. It's where clarity forms. This is why many writers, artists, strategists, deep thinkers prefer low stimulation environments. Crowd avoidance isn't withdrawal. It's protection of mental flow. That's why their best moments often happen alone. Relatable example. Ideas come during quiet walks. Clarity shows up late at night. Crowds interrupt their thinking rhythm. Social mislabeling and pressure. Modern culture confuses visibility with value. Quiet people are often mislabeled as cold, unfriendly, disengaged. But their social energy is selective, not absent. They listen more than they speak. They observe before engaging. They prefer depth over volume. This misunderstanding creates pressure to perform socially, stay longer than they should, mask who they are. Masking is exhausting. Eventually, crowd avoidance becomes less about the crowd and more about avoiding being misread. And the comments usually sound harmless. Relatable example. You should come out more. Why are you so quiet? You'd be more fun if you loosened up. What they hear is, who you are isn't enough. Self-awareness and boundaries. Avoiding crowds often reflects deep self-awareness. These individuals recognize early signs of exhaustion, emotional overload, when enjoyment will turn into irritation. Instead of ignoring those signals, they act. That requires emotional intelligence, self-trust, willingness to disappoint others. That's maturity. They leave early not because they can't handle more, but because they know what happens if they don't. So when they step away, relatable example, it's not rejection, it's foresight. They leave before exhaustion becomes resentment. The hidden strengths. People who avoid crowds often possess quiet strengths: focus, empathy, insight, creativity, depth. They don't dominate conversations, they anchor them. Their power isn't volume, it's precision. Crowd avoidance isn't a flaw, it's often the reason these strengths develop. That's why they're often the ones who... Relatable example, listen carefully. Notice what others miss. Speak less, but mean more. Bonus, how to support someone who avoids crowds. If someone you care about avoids crowds, don't take it personally. Offer low-pressure options. Respect boundaries. Understanding builds connection. Pressure builds distance. Relatable example. Invite, don't force. Offer quiet options. Respect their boundaries. Avoiding crowds isn't antisocial. It's often a sign of a nervous system that values clarity over chaos. And in a loud world, that's a quiet strength. If this helped you understand yourself or someone else, hit like. Subscribe for psychology that explains, not labels. Comment quiet power if you stayed till the end.